Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever caught yourself over-analyzing a situation to the point where it feels like your mind just won't shut off? Do you ever feel like you're living your life through the lens of others, constantly seeking their approval, worried about what they think, or maybe you're carrying around regrets like they're bricks in a backpack, weighing you down day after day? If any of that sounds familiar, you're not alone, but more importantly, you're not stuck. Today, I want to share with you 10 Stoic principles that have the power to set you free from overthinking, from needing approval, and from regret. But before we dive in, if this resonates with you, if you're on a journey of self-improvement and inner peace, make sure to subscribe. Let's grow together. Now, let's begin. Number 1. Focus on what's in your control. So much of our stress comes from trying to control things that aren't ours to control. Other people's opinions, the outcome of every situation, the past. But here's the truth. Our power lies in how we choose to respond. That's where freedom begins. In the space between what happens and how we handle it. This principle, focusing on what's in your control, is arguably the most foundational concept in Stoic philosophy, often referred to as the dichotomy of control. It's a deceptively simple idea with profound implications for how we navigate life's challenges. The Stoics meticulously divided the world into two categories: things that are within our power and things that are not. Within our power are our judgments, our impulses, our desires, our aversions, essentially our own thoughts and actions. Outside our power are things like our body, property, reputation, status, the opinions of others, and external events. Everything that is not our own doing. The vast majority of our overthinking stems from a failure to adhere to this principle. We agonize over what others think of us, even though their thoughts are entirely beyond our control. We replay past conversations, wishing we had said or done something differently, despite the past being immutable. We worry incessantly about future outcomes, whether we'll get that job, how a difficult conversation will go, what the economy will do, things that are influenced by countless factors outside our direct command. This mental energy spent on the uncontrollable is not only wasted, but actively detrimental, generating anxiety and a feeling of powerlessness. The Stoic remedy is to constantly bring our attention back to the present moment and ask, is this something I can directly influence? If not, why am I expending energy on it? By consciously releasing our grip on the uncontrollable, we free up mental space and energy to focus on where we do have power, our response. When it comes to the need for approval, this principle is a potent antidote. The desire for others to think well of us, to validate our choices, or to admire our achievements is a natural human inclination. However, when this desire morphs into a need, we become slaves to external opinion. Other people's approval is fundamentally outside our control. We can behave in ways we believe will garner approval, but we cannot force someone to like us or agree with us. The Stoics teach us that true freedom from the need for approval comes from deriving our self-worth internally. Our value is determined by our character, our integrity, and our commitment to living virtuously, all things that are within our control. By focusing on being the best version of ourselves according to our own reasoned judgment, we become less dependent on the fluctuating and unpredictable opinions of others. Their approval becomes a welcome bonus, perhaps, but never a necessity for our peace of mind. Regret is almost entirely focused on the uncontrollable past. We regret decisions made, words spoken, opportunities missed. We wish we could go back and change things. The Stoics acknowledge that we can learn from the past, but dwelling on what cannot be changed is a form of self-inflicted torture. The principle of focusing on what's in control helps us process regret by shifting our focus from the unchangeable event to our present capacity to learn and act differently. While we cannot control what happened, we can control how we respond to the memory of it. We can choose to extract the lesson, accept the consequences, and focus our energy on making better choices in the present moment, which is within our power. This redirection of focus from futile past dwelling to present, purposeful action is key to dissolving the heavy burden of regret. Practicing the dichotomy of control is a continuous process of self-awareness and redirection. It requires consistently monitoring our thoughts and identifying when we are becoming entangled in worries about the uncontrollable. When we catch ourselves overthinking something outside our power, the practice is to gently but firmly shift our focus back to what is within our sphere of influence, our attitude, our effort, our intentions in this very moment. It's about cultivating a mindset where we invest our energy wisely, directing it towards areas where we can actually affect change rather than fruitlessly trying to manipulate the unchangeable. This practice, while challenging initially, builds resilience, reduces anxiety, and ultimately leads to a profound sense of liberation. Number 2, embrace the present moment. We get lost in the past. We worry about the future, but the only place we can live is now, right here, in this breath, in this moment. That's where peace exists. Train your mind to return to the present, because that's where your life is happening. The second Stoic principle emphasizes the profound importance of living fully in the present moment. Our minds possess an extraordinary capacity to travel through time, effortlessly conjuring memories of the past and fabricating scenarios of the future. While these abilities are useful for learning and planning, they become significant sources of suffering when we allow ourselves to be consumed by them, neglecting the only reality we ever truly inhabit, the here and now. Overthinking is a prime example of a mind that has become unmoored from the present. It is characterized by a constant oscillation between dwelling on past events, replaying mistakes, regretting decisions, lamenting losses, and fixating on future possibilities, worrying about hypothetical problems, anticipating challenges, fearing uncertainty. Both of these temporal excursions pull our awareness away from the richness and opportunities of the present. The Stoics understood that this mental time travel, when unchecked, drains our energy and fuels anxiety. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor deeply influenced by Stoicism, frequently reminded himself in his meditations to focus on the task at hand, to not be overwhelmed by the totality of life, but to address each challenge as it arises in the present moment. He recognized that the burden of life is often in our imagination of the future, not in the present reality itself. The need for approval is also deeply connected to a detachment from the present moment. When we are preoccupied with seeking approval, we are often focused on how we will be perceived by others in the future, or we are reacting to perceived disapproval from the past. We curate our behavior and words based on anticipated reactions, rather than acting authentically in the present moment based on our values. This disconnect prevents genuine connection and keeps us from fully experiencing the present interaction. Embracing the present allows us to be fully present with ourselves and others, acting with integrity in the here and now, free from the anxiety of future judgment or the lingering sting of past criticism. Regret is inherently a past-oriented emotion. It is the painful dwelling on events that have already transpired and cannot be altered. When we are caught in the grip of regret, we are mentally reliving a past experience, wishing for a different outcome. This pulls us entirely out of the present moment, where action and change are possible. The Stoic approach, facilitated by embracing the present, is to acknowledge the past as unchangeable history and to bring our focus back to the only moment where we have agency, the present. By fully inhabiting the present, we create distance from the emotional weight of the past, allowing us to learn from it without being trapped by it. We can then use the lessons learned to inform our choices in the here and now, shaping a better future. Embracing the present moment is not a state of passive existence. It is an active and conscious practice. It involves intentionally bringing our attention to our immediate surroundings and experiences. This can be done through engaging our senses, noticing the sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and physical sensations of the present. A simple yet powerful way to anchor ourselves in the present is through mindful breathing, focusing on the sensation of the breath entering and leaving the body. This ever-present physical reality serves as a constant reminder of where we are, here, now. The Stoics understood that our life is not a continuous, unbroken line stretching from birth to death, but rather a series of present moments strung together. By fully inhabiting each moment, we make our lives richer and more meaningful. Epictetus urged his students to approach each task, no matter how small, with full attention and effort, as if it were the most important thing they would ever do. This approach not only improves performance, but also keeps the mind anchored in the present, preventing it from drifting into unproductive overthinking. Training the mind to reside in the present requires consistent effort, much like building a muscle. Mindfulness practices, such as meditation or simply paying full attention to daily activities like eating or walking, can significantly enhance our ability to stay present. The key is to gently redirect the mind back to the present whenever we notice it has wandered, without judgment. This repeated act of bringing our attention back strengthens our capacity for present moment awareness. By embracing the present moment, we free ourselves from the mental anguish of overthinking hypothetical futures or unchangeable pasts. We reduce the power that the need for approval has over us, as we are less concerned with future perceptions and more grounded in authentic present interaction. We diminish the grip of regret by acknowledging the past as history and focusing our energy on purposeful action in the now. The present is the only time where life is truly lived, where we have the power to act, to learn, and to find peace. Cultivating presence is cultivating a life lived fully. Number 3, accept change. Change is not the enemy. It's the nature of life. Seasons change, people grow apart, circumstances shift. You can fear it, or you can learn from it. Every change brings a lesson. Every loss brings space for something new. When you stop resisting change, you start growing with it. Accepting change is a fundamental pillar of Stoic philosophy, recognizing that impermanence is the inherent nature of the universe. Nothing is static. Everything is in a perpetual state of flux, from the grand cosmic shifts to the subtle alterations within our own bodies and minds. Change is the constant rhythm of existence. Our suffering often arises not from change itself, but from our resistance to it, our desire for things to remain as they are or to be different than they are becoming. Overthinking is frequently fueled by a deep-seated resistance to change. We overanalyze past events, desperately wishing they hadn't happened, clinging to a fixed idea of how things should have been. We worry endlessly about the future because we fear the changes it might bring: loss, uncertainty, discomfort, disruption to our routines and expectations. This resistance to the inevitable flow of life creates mental friction, trapping us in cycles of anxiety and hypothetical scenarios. By accepting that change is constant and unavoidable, we loosen the grip of overthinking. We learn to navigate transitions with greater flexibility and less mental anguish, recognizing that dwelling on what was or fearing what might be is a futile exercise against the natural order. The need for approval is also heavily influenced by our difficulty accepting change, particularly in relationships and social dynamics. We might cling to certain behaviors or identities that garnered approval in the past, resisting personal growth or shifts in our beliefs for fear of losing the acceptance of others. We might fear changes in relationships, worrying that evolving dynamics or differing paths will lead to disapproval or disconnection. Accepting change means recognizing that relationships naturally evolve, people's opinions may shift, and our social circles may change. By embracing this natural flow, we become less dependent on maintaining the approval of specific individuals or groups, and more confident in navigating the evolving landscape of our social connections. This allows us to pursue paths that are authentic to us, even if they lead to changes in our relationships. Regret is a powerful example of resisting the permanence of change. We regret past decisions or events because we wish the outcome were different, effectively wishing to reverse the course of time and change what has already transpired. This is a direct confrontation with the unchangeable nature of the past. The Stoic acceptance of change helps us process regret by framing the past as a fixed point in the continuum of change. While we cannot alter the past event, we can accept that it happened and that its consequences are now part of the present reality. This acceptance allows us to move beyond wishing for what cannot be, and instead focus on how we can adapt, learn, and move forward within the context of the present, which is constantly changing and offering new possibilities. The Stoic approach to accepting change is not about passive resignation or emotional indifference. It is about understanding the nature of reality and aligning ourselves with it. It involves recognizing that change is not inherently good or bad. It is simply a process. Our suffering arises from the judgments we attach to change. By cultivating a mindset of acceptance, we can observe change without automatically labeling it as negative or threatening. We learn to see transitions, even challenging ones, as natural occurrences and opportunities for growth. Consider the seasons as a powerful metaphor for life's cycles of change. Winter's barrenness gives way to spring's renewal. Summer's abundance transitions to autumn's harvest, which then fades back into winter's quietude. Each season has its unique characteristics and challenges, but resisting winter does not bring spring any faster. Similarly, resisting difficult periods in life does not make them disappear. It only intensifies our suffering. By accepting the cyclical nature of life, we can find a sense of peace in knowing that difficult times are temporary and that new possibilities will inevitably emerge. Practicing the acceptance of change involves cultivating a flexible mindset. It requires being open to new experiences, adjusting our plans when circumstances shift, and being willing to let go of expectations that are no longer aligned with reality. It also involves recognizing our own capacity to adapt and grow in the face of change. The Stoics believed that adversity, a form of change, is a crucial opportunity to practice virtue and strengthen our character. Instead of fearing change, the Stoic encourages us to greet it with curiosity and a willingness to learn. Every transition offers lessons. Every loss creates space for something new to enter our lives. By embracing change as an integral part of the journey, we move from resisting the flow of life to flowing with it, becoming more resilient, adaptable, and ultimately, more peaceful. This acceptance frees us from the anxieties of overthinking, the limitations of seeking constant external validation, and the heavy burden of regret, allowing us to navigate the ever-changing landscape of existence with greater equanimity and wisdom. Number 4, let go of needing approval. We've been conditioned to chase likes, praise, validation. But true freedom is when you no longer need others to confirm your worth. Live by your own values. Walk your own path. Approval is nice, but it's not necessary. What you believe about yourself is what matters most. The fourth Stoic principle directly confronts one of the most pervasive sources of human anxiety and constraint: the need for external approval. From childhood, many of us are conditioned to seek validation from others, parents, teachers, peers, and later, society at large. This can manifest as a desire for praise, recognition, acceptance, or simply the fear of being disliked or judged negatively. While a degree of social connection and acceptance is healthy, the need for approval becomes a cage, limiting our choices and inhibiting our ability to live authentically. The need for approval is a primary driver of overthinking, particularly social overthinking. We replay conversations, scrutinize our actions, and anticipate future interactions, all filtered through the lens of how we believe others perceive us. We worry about making mistakes that might lead to disapproval, or we obsess over whether we said or did the right thing to gain acceptance. This constant mental rumination about others' opinions is exhausting and unproductive, consuming valuable cognitive resources that could be directed towards more meaningful pursuits. By releasing the need for approval, we quiet this internal noise and free our minds from the endless cycle of worrying about what others think. This principle is intimately connected to the first principle of focusing on what's in our control. The opinions and judgments of others are inherently external and beyond our direct control. No matter how hard we try, we cannot force someone to like us or approve of our choices. When we base our sense of self-worth on this unpredictable external factor, we essentially hand over control of our emotional state to others. The Stoics argued that true self-worth must be rooted internally, in our character and our commitment to living in accordance with virtue. Our value comes from our capacity for reason, our integrity, and our efforts to be a good person, regardless of how others react to us. By grounding our self-worth internally, the approval of others becomes a pleasant bonus, not a necessary condition for our happiness or peace of mind. Regret can also be a consequence of living a life dictated by the need for approval. We might look back and regret not pursuing a passion, not speaking our truth, or not making a choice that was right for us, all because we were afraid of disappointing others or facing their disapproval. We might regret conforming to societal expectations or the desires of others at the expense of our own authenticity. Letting go of the need for approval empowers us to make choices that are aligned with our own values and desires, reducing the likelihood of future regret stemming from a life lived to please others rather than ourselves. The Stoic approach to letting go of the need for approval is not about becoming indifferent to others or deliberately seeking conflict. It is about understanding that our intrinsic worth is not dependent on external validation. It is about recognizing that while it is natural to desire positive relationships and social harmony, our core identity and value as human beings are not contingent on the opinions of others. We are valuable because we possess the capacity for reason and virtue. Practicing this principle requires conscious effort to challenge deeply ingrained beliefs about the importance of external validation. One practical step is to identify your own core values. What principles are most important to you? What kind of person do you want to be, regardless of how others perceive you? By clarifying your values, you create an internal compass that can guide your decisions and actions, making you less reliant on external cues. Another important practice is to observe your reactions to both praise and criticism. Notice how you feel when you receive positive feedback and how you feel when you receive negative feedback. By becoming aware of these reactions, you can begin to create a space between the external input and your internal response. Remind yourself that praise is often subjective and can be based on factors unrelated to your true worth, and criticism is often a reflection of the other person's perspective, not an objective truth about you. It is also helpful to remember that trying to please everyone is an impossible task. Different people have different values, expectations, and biases. What one person approves of, another may disapprove of. By trying to mold yourself into what you think others want you to be, you lose your own sense of self. True connection comes from being authentic and finding people who appreciate you for who you genuinely are. Letting go of the need for approval is a journey towards radical self-acceptance and freedom. It is about recognizing that your worth is inherent and not something that needs to be earned or validated by others. By cultivating this inner sense of worth, you become less susceptible to the anxieties of overthinking related to social perception, free yourself from the constraints of living to please others, and reduce the likelihood of future regret stemming from a life lived inauthentically. This principle is a powerful declaration of independence for your inner self. Number 5, understand life's natural cycles. Nothing stays the same. Not joy, not pain, not people. Life moves in waves, in seasons. When you accept that everything is temporary, you find peace in the transitions, you stop clinging, and you start flowing. That's wisdom. The 5th Stoic principle builds upon the acceptance of change by highlighting the cyclical nature of life. The universe and everything within it operates in a continuous series of cycles: birth and death, growth and decay, creation and destruction. These cycles are evident in the natural world, from the turning of seasons to the ebb and flow of tides, and they are equally present in our own lives, in the rise and fall of our emotions, the evolution of our relationships, and the changing circumstances we encounter. Understanding and accepting these natural cycles is crucial for cultivating resilience, perspective, and inner peace. Overthinking is often intensified by a failure to recognize and accept life's cyclical nature. We may overanalyze periods of difficulty, believing they are permanent states of suffering, failing to remember that challenging times like winter eventually give way to periods of renewal. We might overthink moments of joy, desperately trying to cling to them or fearing their inevitable end, forgetting that all states are temporary. This resistance to the natural flow of highs and lows creates mental turbulence. By understanding that all experiences, both positive and negative, are temporary phases within a larger cycle, we can approach them with greater equanimity, reducing the intensity of our overthinking about their permanence or disappearance. The need for approval can also be influenced by a resistance to the cyclical nature of relationships and social dynamics. We might fear the natural changes that occur in friendships or family relationships, worrying that evolving interests or differing paths will lead to a loss of approval or connection. We might cling to outdated versions of relationships or to social groups that no longer align with who we are becoming, out of a fear of the transition and potential disapproval that comes with change. Understanding that relationships, like everything else, move through cycles of closeness and distance, intensity and calm, helps us to navigate these transitions with less anxiety and less dependence on constant external validation from specific individuals or groups. Regret is frequently rooted in a failure to appreciate the temporary nature of positive cycles or to accept the inevitability of negative ones. We might regret not fully seizing an opportunity or appreciating a period of happiness because we didn't recognize its fleeting nature. Conversely, we might dwell on past difficulties with regret, failing to see them as temporary challenges within a larger life cycle. By understanding that all experiences are part of a larger, ongoing process of change and renewal, we can approach the past with a greater sense of perspective. We can learn from difficult periods without being permanently defined or burdened by them, and we can appreciate moments of joy without the desperate need to freeze them in time, thus reducing the sting of regret. The Stoic acceptance of life's natural cycles is not about becoming passive observers of our own lives. It is about aligning our expectations with reality. Just as a sailor understands and works with the tides, rather than fighting against them, we are encouraged to understand and work with the natural rhythms of life. This understanding helps us to anticipate transitions, to prepare for periods of difficulty, and to fully appreciate moments of flourishing, knowing that they will not last forever. The concept of amor fati, or love of fate, is closely related to this principle. It involves not just accepting what happens, including the challenging cycles of life, but actively embracing it as a necessary part of the unfolding of events. This doesn't mean we don't try to improve our circumstances or alleviate suffering, but it means we accept the reality of the present cycle we are in and find strength and meaning within it. Practicing the understanding of life's natural cycles involves cultivating a long-term perspective. When faced with a difficult period, remind yourself that this too shall pass. When experiencing joy, savor it fully while also acknowledging its impermanence. Observe the cycles in nature, the growth and decay of plants, the changing light throughout the day, and see them as mirrors of the cycles in your own life. This understanding also encourages us to release our grip on outcomes. We can work towards goals and strive for positive results, but we also accept that the outcome is subject to countless external factors and the natural cycles of life. By focusing on our effort and intention within the present cycle, rather than being attached to a specific static outcome, we find greater peace and resilience. By understanding and accepting life's natural cycles, we move from a state of resistance and struggle to one of greater harmony and flow. We become more adaptable in the face of change, less reliant on external validation for our sense of stability, and less burdened by the weight of past regrets. This principle offers a framework for navigating the ever-changing landscape of existence with wisdom, grace, and a profound sense of peace that comes from aligning ourselves with the fundamental rhythm of the universe. Number 6, grow through adversity. Your challenges? They're not punishments, they're invitations. Adversity is how strength is built. When life feels heavy, ask yourself, what is this here to teach me? Your pain can become your power if you let it shape you, not break you. The 6th Stoic principle views adversity not as something to be feared and avoided at all costs, but as an essential component of a well-lived life and a powerful catalyst for growth. While our natural inclination is to seek comfort and avoid pain, the Stoics understood that challenges, difficulties, and setbacks are the very forge in which our character is tested and strengthened. They are not random acts of cruelty, but opportunities, invitations to practice virtue, build resilience, and deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world. Overthinking is often amplified during times of adversity. We ruminate on why the challenge is happening to us, what we could have done differently to avoid it, and what negative consequences it might bring. This negative overthinking keeps us stuck in the problem, preventing us from seeing the opportunity for growth that the adversity presents. The Stoic perspective shifts our focus from dwelling on the why of the adversity to focusing on how we can respond to it with strength, wisdom, and courage. By viewing challenges as invitations to practice virtue, we redirect our mental energy from unproductive worry to purposeful action and learning. The need for approval can make adversity even more challenging to bear. We might fear that our struggles or setbacks will be seen as weakness by others, leading to a loss of respect or approval. We might hide our difficulties or pretend everything is fine to maintain a facade of strength and competence. This fear prevents us from seeking support when needed and adds an extra layer of anxiety to an already difficult situation. The Stoic principle of growing through adversity reminds us that true strength is not the absence of struggle, but the ability to face challenges with courage and integrity. By focusing on our inner response to adversity, rather than how others perceive our struggles, we free ourselves from the need for external validation during difficult times and allow ourselves to focus on the crucial work of learning and growth. Regret can also be tied to our experiences with adversity. We might regret not handling a past challenge differently, or regret the choices we made when under pressure. We might regret not seeking help or support during a difficult time due to pride. or fear of appearing weak. The Stoic view of adversity as an opportunity for growth helps us reframe past difficulties. Instead of dwelling on regret about how things unfolded, we can view those experiences as crucial lessons learned. We can accept that we did the best we could with the understanding we had at the time, and focus on how we can apply the wisdom gained from that adversity to face future challenges with greater strength and resilience, thus reducing the potential for future regret. The Stoics actively embraced the idea that difficulty is necessary for developing virtue. Seneca, another prominent Stoic philosopher, wrote that difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. He saw challenges as opportunities to demonstrate courage, patience, perseverance, and other virtues. A life without challenge, while seemingly desirable, would be a life without the opportunity to develop these essential qualities. Practicing the principle of growing through adversity involves several key elements. First, it requires a conscious shift in perspective. When faced with a challenge, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this situation teaching me?" Or, "How can I respond to this challenge in a way that aligns with my values?" This reframing shifts the focus from victimhood to empowerment. Second, it involves viewing challenges as opportunities to practice specific virtues. If you are facing a difficult conversation, it is an opportunity to practice courage and honesty. If you are experiencing a setback in a goal, it is an opportunity to practice perseverance and patience. By focusing on the virtue you can cultivate in the face of adversity, you find meaning in the struggle and strengthen your character. Third, it requires resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks. The Stoics understood that failure and disappointment are inevitable parts of the process. Instead of being defeated by them, they encouraged learning from them and continuing to move forward with renewed determination. Embracing adversity as a path to growth is not about pretending that difficulties don't hurt or that pain is not real. It is about recognizing that within the struggle lies the potential for profound transformation. Our greatest strengths are often forged in our most challenging moments. By viewing adversity as an invitation to learn, adapt, and practice virtue, we transform our pain into power, build a more resilient character, and ultimately live a life of deeper meaning and strength, free from the paralyzing fear of difficulty that fuels overthinking, the crippling need for approval during tough times, and the lingering burden of regret over past struggles. Number 7. Cultivate inner wealth. We chase so much, status, money, stuff, but real wealth, it's peace of mind, it's gratitude, it's connection, it's knowing you already have enough. When you focus less on what you can collect and more on what you can experience, life becomes richer. The seventh Stoic principle highlights a crucial distinction between external wealth and inner wealth, asserting that true richness lies not in the accumulation of possessions, status, or external achievements, but in the cultivation of our inner state, our peace of mind, character, and capacity for virtue. In a world often driven by consumerism and the pursuit of external markers of success, this principle offers a powerful counter-narrative, reminding us that the most valuable treasures are those that reside within. The relentless pursuit of external wealth and validation is a major source of overthinking. We worry about not having enough, about losing what we have, about comparing ourselves to others who have more. We overanalyze financial decisions, career moves, and social status, convinced that these external factors are the key to happiness and security. This constant mental preoccupation with acquiring and maintaining external wealth fuels anxiety and prevents us from appreciating what we already have. By shifting our focus to cultivating inner wealth, we reduce the mental clutter associated with external pursuits and find peace in our present circumstances, regardless of our material possessions. The need for approval is deeply intertwined with the pursuit of external wealth. We often seek status symbols, material possessions, or impressive achievements because we believe these things will earn us the admiration and approval of others. We fear that without these external markers of success, we will be seen as less valuable or less worthy. This pursuit of external validation through material means is a never-ending treadmill, as there will always be someone with more, and external approval is fleeting and unreliable. Cultivating inner wealth shifts our focus from seeking external validation through possessions to finding validation in our character and virtue. When our sense of worth is rooted internally, the need to impress others with external displays of wealth diminishes, freeing us from this exhausting and ultimately unfulfilling pursuit. Regret can stem from prioritizing the accumulation of external wealth over the cultivation of inner wealth. We might regret spending too much time chasing money or status at the expense of meaningful relationships, personal growth, or experiences that bring genuine joy. We might regret compromising our values or acting inauthentically in the pursuit of external success. The Stoic principle of inner wealth encourages us to live in a way that minimizes such regrets. By prioritizing peace of mind, gratitude, strong connections, and virtuous living, we build a life that is intrinsically rich and fulfilling, regardless of external circumstances, reducing the likelihood of looking back with regret on a life spent chasing fleeting external rewards. The Stoics considered external things, wealth, health, reputation, as indifference. This did not mean they were irrelevant, but that they were indifferent to our ability to live a virtuous life. They could be used well or poorly. True good, according to the Stoics, resided only in virtue and a well-ordered mind. Poverty or illness, while challenging, could not prevent a person from being courageous, just, wise, or temperate. Conversely, great wealth and status did not guarantee inner peace or virtue. Cultivating inner wealth involves several key practices. First, it requires cultivating gratitude for what we already have, not just material possessions, but our health, our relationships, our abilities, and the simple pleasures of life. Regularly pausing to appreciate the abundance that is already present in our lives shifts our focus from lack to sufficiency. Second, it involves focusing on developing our character and virtues. Investing time and effort in becoming a more courageous, just, wise, and temperate person builds a form of wealth that cannot be taken away by external circumstances. This inner strength and integrity are the true sources of security and fulfillment. Third, it involves nurturing meaningful connections with others. Relationships built on mutual respect, support, and shared values are a form of wealth that enriches our lives in ways that material possessions cannot. Fourth, it involves finding contentment in having enough. This is not about settling for mediocrity, but about recognizing that excessive accumulation often brings more burdens than benefits. It is about finding peace in our present circumstances and focusing on living a life of purpose and meaning, rather than being driven by an insatiable desire for more. By cultivating inner wealth, we shift our focus from the external world of acquisition and comparison to the internal world of character and contentment. This shift has a profound impact on our overthinking, reducing anxieties related to external security and status. It frees us from the need for external approval, as our sense of worth is derived from within, and it minimizes the potential for future regret as we prioritize living a life rich in meaning and connection, rather than one solely focused on fleeting external rewards. The Stoic path to wealth is an inner journey, leading to a life of genuine fulfillment and lasting peace. Number 8. Accept what you can't change. There are things in life you'll never be able to control. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. But you can control your perspective. Let go of the fight against reality. Accept what is, and Then decide who you want to be within it. The eighth Stoic principle, accepting what you can't change, is a direct application and reinforcement of the foundational dichotomy of control. While the first principle introduces the concept of distinguishing between what is within our power and what is not, this principle focuses on the acceptance of the latter. It's the recognition that fighting against reality, railing against circumstances, beyond our influence, is a futile and self-destructive endeavor. Instead, true strength lies in acknowledging the unchangeable and focusing our energy on our response. Much of our overthinking is a direct result of resisting things we cannot change. We obsess over past events, wishing we could alter them. We worry about potential future outcomes that are outside our control. We lament the actions or opinions of others, desperately wishing they were different. This mental struggle against reality generates immense stress and anxiety. By consciously accepting what we cannot change, whether it's a past decision, a current circumstance, or another person's behavior, we stop fighting a losing battle. This acceptance doesn't mean we like the situation, but it means we acknowledge its reality, which is the essential first step towards finding a productive way to move forward. This radical acceptance quiets the overthinking mind by removing the fuel of resistance. The need for approval is often a fight against the unchangeable reality of others' subjectivity. We cannot control what another person thinks or feels about us. Their opinions are a reflection of their own experiences, biases, and perspectives, not an objective truth about our worth. Trying to force someone to approve of us is like trying to change the color of their eyes through sheer willpower. The Stoic acceptance of this fundamental truth frees us from the exhausting struggle for external validation. By accepting that, we cannot control how others perceive us. We can let go of the need to constantly seek their approval and instead focus on living in accordance with our own values, which is within our control. Regret is fundamentally a resistance to the unchangeable. Past. We regret actions taken or not taken, wishing we could rewind time and make a different choice. But the past is the ultimate unchangeable reality. No amount of wishing or dwelling can alter what has already happened. The Stoic principle of accepting what we cannot change is crucial for processing regret. It involves acknowledging the past event, accepting that it cannot be undone, and releasing the futile struggle against that reality. This acceptance allows us to move from a state of wishing things were different to a state of acknowledging what is. From this place of acceptance, we can then focus on what is within our control, how we learn from the past, how we choose to act in the present, and how we shape our future based on the wisdom gained. Accepting what we can't change is not a sign of weakness or giving up. On the contrary, it is an act of profound strength and realism. It requires courage to face reality head-on without illusion or denial. It is about recognizing the boundaries of our influence and directing our energy towards where it can be most effective, our own inner world and our present actions. Epictetus used the analogy of a game of dice. We cannot control the role of the dice, external events, but we can control how we play the hand we are dealt, our response. Similarly, we cannot control every aspect of life, but we can control our attitude and our actions within the given circumstances. Practicing this principle involves cultivating a sense of realism and letting go of idealistic expectations about how life should be. When faced with a situation that is causing distress, ask yourself, is this something I can directly change? If not, can I find a way to accept this reality and focus on how I can best navigate it? This might involve grieving losses, adapting plans, or simply adjusting your perspective. It also requires differentiating between acceptance and passive resignation. Accepting what you can't change does not mean you don't take action where action is possible. It means you accept the reality of the situation, and then you choose to act effectively within that reality on the things you can influence. For example, you might accept that you lost your job, unchangeable past event, but then focus your energy on applying for new jobs, developing new skills, and maintaining a positive attitude, controllable present actions. Ultimately, accepting what you can't change is an act of liberation. It frees us from the exhausting struggle against reality, allowing us to find peace and agency within the present moment. It reduces overthinking by removing the fuel of futile resistance. It diminishes the need for approval by grounding us in the reality of our own control. And it helps us process regret by acknowledging the unchangeable nature of the past and focusing on how we can live fully in the present. This principle is about finding strength and freedom, not by controlling the world around us, but by mastering our response to it. Number 9, be of service. Life gets deeper when it's not just about you. Serve, help, lift someone else. The Stoics believed that a meaningful life is one rooted in contribution. When you help others rise, you rise too. The 9th Stoic principle emphasizes the importance of being of service to others, recognizing that a life dedicated solely to personal pleasure or gain is ultimately shallow and unfulfilling. The Stoics believed that humans are fundamentally social beings and that our well-being is deeply intertwined with the well-being of our community. Contributing to the common good, helping others, and living a life of purpose rooted in something larger than ourselves are essential components of a meaningful and virtuous existence. Overthinking can often be self-centered, revolving around our own worries, anxieties, and perceived problems. We get trapped in our own heads, endlessly dissecting our own feelings and circumstances. Shifting our focus outward to the needs of others and how we can contribute provides a powerful antidote to this self-absorption. When we are actively engaged in serving others, our minds are directed towards external action and problem-solving, leaving less mental space for unproductive rumination about ourselves. Acts of service pull us out of our own internal narratives and connect us to the broader human experience. The need for approval is often driven by a desire to be seen as important, successful, or likable. This focus on self-image can be a constant source of anxiety and a barrier to genuine connection. Shifting our focus from seeking approval to being of service fundamentally changes our motivation. Instead of asking, "How can I impress others?" we ask, "How can I be useful?" or "How can I contribute to the well-being of others?" When our actions are motivated by a genuine desire to help and contribute, the need for external validation diminishes. The reward comes from the act of service itself and the positive impact we have on others, rather than from their approval or recognition. Regret can stem from a life lived too narrowly, focused primarily on self-interest. We might regret not having been more generous with our time or resources, not having helped others when we had the chance, or not having contributed more to our community. The Stoic principle of being of service encourages us to live a life of contribution, thereby minimizing the potential for such regrets. By actively seeking opportunities to serve others, we create a legacy of positive impact and live a life that feels more meaningful and purposeful in retrospect. The Stoics believed in the concept of cosmopolitanism, the idea that we are all citizens of a single world community and that we have a duty to care for our fellow human beings. They saw our interconnectedness as a fundamental truth and believed that our own well-being is intrinsically linked to the well-being of others. Acts of service are not simply charitable gestures, they are expressions of our shared humanity and a way of fulfilling our natural purpose. Practicing the principle of being of service can take many forms. It doesn't require grand gestures or significant financial contributions. It can be as simple as offering a listening ear to a friend, helping a neighbor with a task, volunteering for a cause you believe in, or simply performing small acts of kindness throughout your day. The key is the intention behind the action, a genuine desire to contribute positively to the lives of others. Finding ways to align your skills and passions with opportunities for service can make the experience even more rewarding. When you are able to use your unique talents to help others, the act of service becomes a powerful source of fulfillment and meaning. Being of service also helps to cultivate other Stoic virtues, such as compassion, empathy, and justice. By engaging with the struggles and needs of others, we develop a deeper understanding of the human condition and strengthen our capacity for virtuous action. Ultimately, the principle of being of service reminds us that a truly rich and meaningful life is not measured by what we accumulate for ourselves, but by the positive impact we have on the world around us. By shifting our focus from self-concern to contribution, we quiet the noise of overthinking about our own problems, diminish the need for external approval as our motivation comes from within, and create a life filled with purpose and connection, minimizing the potential for future regret about a life lived solely for oneself. Being of service is not just a moral imperative, it is a pathway to a more fulfilling and truly free existence. Number 10. Reflect and realign. Don't live on autopilot. Stop. Reflect. Ask yourself, am I becoming the person I want to be? Check in with your values. Adjust your course if needed. Growth isn't about perfection, it's about intention. The 10th and final Stoic principle is the crucial practice of regular reflection and realignment. In the busyness of daily life, it's easy to fall into autopilot, reacting to circumstances without conscious thought or direction. The Stoics understood that intentional living requires periodic pauses for self-examination, taking stock of our thoughts, actions, and motivations to ensure we are living in accordance with our values and moving towards becoming the person we aspire to be. Overthinking, paradoxically, is often an unintentional form of reflection, a chaotic and unproductive rehashing of thoughts and worries. Stoic reflection, on the other hand, is a structured and purposeful examination of our inner world and our actions. Instead of getting lost in a spiral of anxious thoughts, intentional reflection involves calmly reviewing our day, our interactions, and our responses. This practice allows us to identify patterns of overthinking, understand their triggers, and develop strategies to manage them more effectively. By dedicating specific time to reflective practice, we reduce the need for the mind to constantly ruminate in an unstructured way. The need for approval can be revealed and addressed through reflection. By examining our actions and motivations, we can identify instances where we acted primarily to gain external validation rather than out of genuine conviction. Reflection allows us to see how seeking approval influences our choices and our emotional state. Once recognized, we can then consciously work to realign our actions with our values, gradually reducing the hold that external opinions have over us. Asking ourselves, why did I do that? Was it aligned with my values, or was I seeking approval? Is a powerful reflective tool. Regret is often a catalyst for reflection, but Stoic reflection aims to be proactive, minimizing future regret. By regularly reviewing our choices and how they align with our values, we can identify areas where we might be heading towards decisions we will later regret. If our actions are consistently out of sync with our deepest values, reflection provides the opportunity to course correct before significant regrets accumulate. When reflecting on past regrets, the Stoic approach is not to dwell in self-recrimination, but to learn from the experience and realign our future behavior. Reflection helps us extract the lessons from the past without being trapped by it. The Stoics practiced various forms of reflection, often at the end of the day. Seneca described a practice of reviewing his day, noting his mistakes, his successes, and how he could improve. This wasn't about self-punishment. but about continuous learning and self-improvement. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is essentially a personal journal of his reflections on Stoic principles and their application to his life as emperor. Practicing reflection and realignment involves setting aside dedicated time for this purpose. This could be a few minutes each morning to set intentions for the day based on your values, or a longer session at the end of the day to review how things went. Journaling can be a powerful tool for reflection, allowing you to capture your thoughts and feelings and identify patterns. Key questions to ask during reflection include, how did I handle challenging situations today? Did I act in accordance with my values? Wisdom, justice, courage, temperance? Were there moments where I was controlled by external opinions? What did I learn today? What could I have done better? What am I grateful for? Based on these reflections, the realignment aspect comes into play. This involves making conscious adjustments to your behavior and intentions moving forward. If you notice a tendency towards overthinking a specific issue, you can plan to apply the dichotomy of control principle more consciously in that area. If you realize you compromised your values to gain approval, you can commit to acting with greater integrity in similar situations in the future. If you identify a source of potential regret, you can take steps to address it proactively. Growth, as the principle states, isn't about achieving perfection instantly, but about the intention to continuously improve and align our lives with our values. Regular reflection provides the awareness needed to make these intentional adjustments. It is a process of continuous self-awareness and refinement, ensuring that we are not simply drifting through life, but actively steering our course towards a life of virtue, meaning, and inner freedom. By making reflection and realignment a consistent practice, we actively work towards overcoming overthinking, diminishing the need for approval, and minimizing the burden of regret, paving the way for a life lived with greater intention, clarity, and peace. So here's the truth. You can't control everything. You won't always be liked. You'll make mistakes, but you can think clearly. You can live honestly. You can be free. These Stoic principles aren't ancient relics, they're tools. Use them, practice them, return to them when life feels overwhelming. Because in the end, freedom doesn't come from changing the world, it comes from mastering yourself. If you found value in this message, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, peace is not something you find, it's something you create, with practice, with presence, and with purpose. Thank you.